My name is Ramirez. It doesn't matter. Shut up, Matthew. Anyway, my name is Ramirez, and this is Cooking Up Crime, where I talk about true crime and then eat various foods while I do it. Today we have, it's a rice bowl. Anyway, and I'm gonna eat it with these chips. Hello. Okay. Anyway, today we're gonna be talking about the Golden State Killer because a suspect was just convicted. Yeah. Anyway, it's a complicated story and it kind of tells multiple stories at once. So the whole, the Golden State Killer, the whole story of him begins with the Visalia Ransacker. This is going to be one of my longest videos, so strap in, grab a snack. The Visalia Ransacker is responsible for around 120 burglaries and reportedly one murder in Visalia, California. He would basically break into people's homes through windows. He would go through people's possessions and kind of throw them around. And then he would also go through women's underwear. He basically was noted for the weird placement of items because he would go through and ransack, LOL. And then he would kind of position things very specifically throughout the house, almost on display. He would steal things like blue chip stamps, which I don't know what those are, weapons, foreign and historic coins, rings, medallions, single earrings, cufflinks, which are little things that go on the ends of button-up shirts, I think. Lord knows. And he would most often strike more than once in one day. On Saturday, November 30th of 1974, he struck 12 times. He wore gloves to basically break into people's windows, and so there was no fingerprints. But then he would leave multiple exit exit portals open. So the front door, garage doors, back doors, other windows, he would just leave those open. And he would leave dishes and bottles against doors and on door handles. And I didn't understand this until just now, but apparently I think that was to keep track of where people were. That way if someone in the dark reached for the door handle, they would knock the bottle over and it would crash, or they would knock the plate over and make a noise. I think it was kind of like that. I'm so smart. He never stole anything of much value. He definitely preferred items of personal value over items of monetary value. It was believed that on September 11th of 1975, at 532 Whitney Lane, the house of the Snelling family was broken into, and the father, Claude Snelling, woke up at around 2 in the morning to a sound. Claude was a professor of journalism at the College of Sequoia, and it was reported that he woke up at around 2 a.m. to his daughter, Beth, being kidnapped by a masked man. After confronting the man outside, Claude was then shot. The intruder dropped Beth and just ran away. Claude went back to his house, met with his wife, and then later died of his wounds. It was reported that on February 5th, that he actually had a confrontation with an intruder, but the intruder ran away, which we'll get into later. Beth was a student. She was a 16-year-old cheerleader at Mount Whitney High School, and she was put under hypnosis to help with the crime, to kind of resurface memories, but nothing happened. Oh my lord, we didn't talk about my house. I'm in a new house. I moved far away from where I was. We'll see for how long, honestly. And we have no backdrop today. We're getting it together. We're getting our life together. But yeah, new house. The authorities then kind of ramped up production of efforts to catch the Visalia Ransacker, offering up a $4,000 reward, which is almost $20,000 today, for the capture of the Visalia Ransacker. But to no avail. On December 12th of 1975, at 1505 West Kauai Avenue, at around 8:35 p.m., a man had scaled the fence, but a police officer was on a stakeout in the garage of that address, and the detective was Detective McGowan. He was in the garage, and he confronted the man. The man shrieked, pulled off his mask, surrendered, then fled the scene. And then, as he was about 4 houses down at 1501 West Kauai Avenue, he shot at McGowan. He only shattered McGowan's flashlight. I'm assuming because police officers have flashlights like this, and they're just what you doing? So I'm assuming he actually was aiming for his head, but then shot the flashlight instead. Backup was called, and backup did arrive, but too late because the suspect escaped, unfortunately. At that point, if that happened today, first of all, you shoot at a police officer, you're dead. They're gonna be shooting at you. They will the SWAT team will fly down from the trees and just start attacking you. No, you shot at a police officer? Nope. That would not fly today. The police thought that a college student was responsible for these burglaries because most of the houses were either located near College of Sequoia or they were homes to Mount McKinley High students. There was 37 suspects, and of these 37 suspects, 21 of them were in their late teens at the time. And the police were unsure if this was like a sexual thing because there was hand lotion oddly placed in several of the houses, but there was no like evidence of anything being done. Size 9 Converse shoe prints were actually found at multiple crime scenes. And I have no idea how to pronounce gun names, but a .38 Moroku revolver was reported stolen, and that was proven to be the gun that shot at McGowan. I think because they like collected the bullet and then did like whatever they do with bullets. The ransacker was noted as being young, white, male, around 5'10", 180 to 200 pounds, athletically fit. He was thought to be left-handed and skilled with weapons. And the police were still kind of caught on this idea that he was more interested in personal trinkets rather than high monetary value items. So that was the Visalia Ransacker, and the crimes committed by him in Visalia, California stopped, but then kind of picked up in what was known as the East Area Side Rapist. From 1976 to 1979, multiple crimes were reported in the Sacramento metropolitan area, the majority of them being rapes. A man would break into the homes of single women, either with children, without children, doesn't matter, and often located near like trails or creeks or like easy places to escape to, like a school, like something that someone could get lost in. He was spotted several times by people who lived in the neighborhood or by the women themselves, but he was never caught. And he shot at somebody, but he didn't kill him. Many of the homes that he had eventually broken into and committed the rapes were houses that were previously reported to have been broken into, so it was thought that like he would break into a house and kind of like scrub out the scene and then like unload any of the guns that were in the house, unlock windows for easy entry later, stuff like that, to kind of like get the ball rolling once he was in there. He would often spend a long amount of time getting to know his victims and their routine of daily life before he would actually attack them. There was an initial preference for just women, but then it ended up being couples. I don't know why. Kind of seems counterintuitive that you would go from a single woman to a couple, but it's not my business. Okay, what was I saying? Oh, he would break into the house through a window or a sliding glass door, and then he would continue to wake up the couple with a flashlight, have the women tie up the men, and then he would tie up the women, then he would gag them both, and then he would separate the two. He would usually leave the men in the bedroom, where he would stack dishes on top of them so that he could hear if they tried to move. What's this piece of my hair doing? Oh, and then he would drag the women into the living room to rape them. He would spend a long amount of time in the house. He would often rape the women several times, and he would be in the house for several hours. He would just eat their food, drink their beer, go through their things, just kind of like mosey around, do a bunch of stuff he's not supposed to be doing. And it was reported he would leave for so long to go like rummage people's things that the victims would think that he had left. And then he would just spring out from the darkness and be like, bam, I'm here. So, one of the main things connecting this to the Visalia Ransacker was kind of like the MO, and also the obsession or the preference for stealing personal items rather than things of value. The first attacks were from June 1976 to May of 1977, with a 3-month gap after that, and then 10 attacks after September. He did 5 attacks the following summer, with another 3-month gap. Attacks kind of picked up in October of 1978 and lasted until July of 1979, and overall 50 cases of rape were reported. There were numerous phone calls that happened from 1977 to 1978, and they usually ended with the caller laughing and hanging up. It's kind of weird. He also sent a poem called Excitement's Crave. He sent it to the Sacramento Bee, a newspaper. Then he sent it to the mayor's office and then a local television station. On February 2nd of 1978, Brian and Katie they're walking their dog and they were confronted by a man who then chased them down and shot them dead. And until 2016, the FBI were not sure if this was the same as the East Area Rapist, but in 2016, the FBI did report that this was the same person. What kind of like got them was that in the Visalia Ransacker, the East Side Rapist, the East Area Rapist, and in this killing, a very unusual Chinese diamond knot was used to tie up some of the victims, and it was just really unusual for like that knot to have been used. So, this goes into the original Night Stalker case. Notably, if you know something about crime, you know Richard Ramirez, and he was the Night Stalker, and this is not the same person. It was actually because of Richard Ramirez being noted as the Night Stalker that they had to call this one the original Night Stalker. And from 1979 in October to 1981, multiple rapes and murders were committed by the original Night Stalker. On Monday, October 1st of 1979, a couple in Goleta, California, a house had been broken into, and the couple was tied up. And they were kind of just chilling until they heard the attacker say that he was going to kill them to himself. He was talking to himself. In which they both got up, tried to escape, and the woman just started screaming. The attacker got scared, ran away, and the next door neighbor was actually an FBI agent, and he chased the attacker, but he didn't catch him. Because this attacker guy is, like, apparently the Michael Phelps of walking. I don't know any fast runners, I'm sorry. This first couple, God bless them, they were actually the only couple to actually survive the original Night Stalker. On December 30th of 1979, 44-year-old Robert Offerman and 35-year-old Deborah Alexander were found shot in Offerman's condo. On March 30th of 1980, Charlene and Lemon, they were found dead. I believe Charlene was beaten upside the head. Charlene was raped, and a log from a woodpile in the house was actually noted as the murder weapon. And this is where the unusual diamond knot kind of comes into play, because Charlene was tied with this knot. On August 19th of 1980, Keith and Patrice Harrington were found dead in their home. Patrice was raped. There were signs that they had been tied up by their wrists and ankles, but there was no evidence. There was nothing that could have tied them up left of the crime scene. Keith's brother Bruce actually used almost $2 million worth of his own money to fund the California Proposition 69, which helped DNA evidence in crimes like these. Basically, it wanted to get DNA from all of California's felons and a couple other criminals that meet criteria to kind of help with the DNA technology that was being developed at the time. There were 3 victims killed in 1981 and another one killed in 1986 that were linked to the original Night Stalker. The police at the time were not tying all these cases together just yet. They had inclinations, but they weren't anything solid. The attacker was thought to be a white male, 5'10", roughly a 9.5 shoe, slender with athletic build, type A blood, and a non-secretor, which basically means, I swear I heard the non-secretor also applies to sweat, and not sweat, that also applies to saliva. But apparently in this case it meant that his type A blood was not in his sperm, so they couldn't test what blood he had in his sperm, and I guess that is important. You got me. At the crime scene, there were microscopic paint chips that were found at the crime, and so it was reported that maybe that he was a construction worker or worked with some kind of spray paint that would lead to these microscopic paint chips. I have no idea how they find that. They're just gonna comb the carpet for everything. I don't understand. Can you see it? I guess if it's what was happening in the 80s? Green carpet? Ew. All I can think of is green carpet, but I guess if it was white paint on green carpet or black paint on green carpet, you can kind of see the speckles and be that's not right. But honestly, I wouldn't even notice that. I'd be 2 dead bodies. Who cares about this paint? My own opinion. There was a psychological profile done of the killer, and it was concluded that the killer had some kind of interest in paraphilic behavior. He engaged in prostitutes. He dressed well in a way that he wouldn't stand out in upscale neighborhoods. He had some police knowledge and was an experienced cat burglar. He may have had an expunged teenage record. He hated women, didn't work in early mornings. He was intelligent and articulate, well organized and neat, and self-confident and self-assured and confident. The original Night Stalker was not connected to the East Area rapist until 2001 by DNA evidence. All of these different personas were tied into the Golden State Killer, based off of DNA evidence at the time that the FBI used to make 25 family trees. They narrowed it down to 1,000 different suspects. And depending on the age, the sex, the race of these suspects, they were able to narrow down to a Joseph James D'Angelo Jr. What a name, Joseph James D'Angelo Jr. I'm gonna call him Joseph. Maybe Joe. We'll see how it goes. But Joseph was born on November 8th of 1945 in Baths, New York, to the Joseph James D'Angelo Sr. and Kathleen Louise. Joseph's dad was a U.S. Army sergeant, and they moved around a lot as a result. We learn a lot about his past from like his siblings. He did have 2 younger sisters and a younger brother. His younger sisters had said that when he was around 10 years old in 1955, he actually witnessed his 7-year-old sister getting raped in a warehouse by 2 airmen in West Germany while they were stationed there. His sisters also said that he was abused by his father. I don't know what entails of this abuse. It could have just been physical. It could have been sexual. They didn't go into detail as far as I could tell. He also, like, in his childhood would commit robberies and would kill animals, which we all know is like bad juju. That kind of goes along with like the expunged teenage record that the police thought about the psychological profile. What is my hair doing? I don't like it. Whatever it's doing, it's got to stop, you know? His family eventually moved to California, and he got his GED from Folsom High School, where he would play on the junior varsity baseball team. I'm trying to grab something off the floor. Please excuse me. Okay. In September of 1964, he did join the U.S. Navy, where he was a damage controlman for the USS Piedmont in the Vietnam War. I know very little about the Vietnam War, so we're just gonna continue. In August of 1968, he attended the Sierra College in Rockland, California, where he got an associate's degree of police science, where he graduated with honors. Didn't even know that existed. Police science. There's a whole degree for it. And never mind, shut up, Matthew. I need to stop running my mouth sometimes. It's gonna get me in trouble. In May of 1970, he became engaged to a lady named Bonnie, but she ended up breaking off the engagement. There was a report that during one of the assaults that he did, he had screamed, "I hate you, Bonnie." But I couldn't find that where he had said that at, but it is noted because this is the lady he was talking about. I just say that this is really weird, and it's kind of like doesn't make much sense to me because in 1971 he attended the Sacramento State University, where he got a bachelor's degree in criminal justice, and like that doesn't make, it's just kind of weird that like this person who was like committing crimes while he was getting these degrees, and like what he would like later end up doing. After graduating with his bachelor's degree, he took a 32-week police internship with the Roseville Police Department. From May of 1973 to August of 1976, he was a burglary unit police officer in Exeter, California, and then he ended up moving to Auburn after that and joined their police department. But it was in Auburn where he was caught shoplifting a hammer and dog repellent, and he was given 6 months probation while being fired from his job as a police officer. I just feel like that's weird. Why would you shoplift a hammer and a dog repellent? I don't know. I feel like as a cop you get paid somewhat decently and you can afford a hammer and dog repellent. I don't know. Unless he was doing shady things. We'll never know, apparently. We could know. He's still alive. In November of 1973, he married a woman named Sharon, and they married in Loomis, California. They had a total of 3 daughters, and Sharon actually became an attorney in 1982 before the couple had separated in 1991. I think it's very odd that he has a degree in criminal justice, he's a police officer, he shoplifts, marries an attorney, and then he's committing all these crimes. I'm just so confused. Okay, none of my business, apparently. Not much was known about Joe in the 1980s. His life was kind of a blur, because he kind of, I guess, kept off the streets a little bit. No, he didn't, as we know before. Regardless, I don't know what I'm saying. But he was a truck mechanic for Save-A-Lot, I think. But he was a truck mechanic from the 90s to when he retired in 2017. In 1996, he actually had an incident at a gas station. Couldn't figure out what this incident was, but he was arrested, but the charges were dropped eventually. Anyway, so I guess it doesn't matter. There was kind of suspicious things that could have been said about Joe. A lot of neighbors that had said how strange and aggressive he was. Because his neighbor's dog was barking, he told his neighbor on the telephone that he was going to bring a load of death because of this barking dog. That's just so, why would you say it in that way? It doesn't matter, apparently. But also his brother-in-law had said that he had casually brought up the East Area rapist up in conversation, very casually, and didn't think really twice of it, but in retrospect, it's kind of weird that you would bring up yourself. I guess kind of this whole mentality of criminals actually want to be caught type of thing. I don't really know. But how weird that you can do so much and then go unnoticed. I guess he was upset about it a little bit, maybe. In 2018, Sharon Huddle applied for divorce, and this was granted in 2019. There was nothing really said about the divorce, as to why they were getting a divorce. They've been married for almost 40 years at that point. No, more than 40 years. almost 50 years at that point. I couldn't really tell what made her want to get a divorce. He ended up living with his daughter and his granddaughter, so apparently he was still on good terms with his family. Kind of odd considering he was a rapist and a murderer, but like, whatever. Detective Paul Holes and FBI lawyer Stephen Kramer. It doesn't matter, I guess. They uploaded his DNA to GEDmatch, which is basically like when people can upload the DNA, and for genealogy experts to kind of go in and be like, this is what's happening. With the help of Barbara Ray Venter, they actually were able to narrow down the suspects for the Golden State Killer down to just a couple of people, and they actually narrowed it down to Joseph and one other person, but they eliminated the other person because he lived kind of far away, and so they knew that it wasn't him, so then they just narrowed down on to Joseph. And on April 24th of 2018, the sheriff deputies went into Joseph's daughter's house and arrested him with 8 counts of first-degree murder. And on May 10th of the same year, they actually added an additional 4 counts of first-degree murder. Joseph kind of blamed all of these crimes on an inner voice that he had named Jerry for all of these crimes, and I'm going to read a quote that he said. "I didn't have the strength to push him out. He made me. He went with me. It was like in my head. I mean, he's a part of me. I didn't want to do those things. I pushed Jerry out and had a happy life. I did all those things. I destroyed all their lives. So now I've got to pay the price." I can't say what I want to say because my mom is watching, but basically, that is so stupid. It's fine. Not to like distract from the actual problem of schizophrenia, I just don't believe that he had it. I think that he was I feel like he knew a lot of what he was doing. And I think that he wanted to do it. I don't know. I couldn't find any interviews with like his wife. I'm assuming she didn't want to talk much about it. But I would like to know if like the psychological profile, if that was real or not, because maybe like there were signs, but she just kind of thought that it was just like his quirks and she didn't think really twice of it, or maybe, I don't really know. I was hoping to find a little bit more from his wife, Sharon, but she didn't have much to say, apparently. Because of the statute of limitations, he could actually not be convicted for any of the rapes or burglaries, but he could be convicted on the 13 counts of murder and kidnapping. On April 10th of 2019, prosecutors announced that they were going to be seeking the death penalty for Joseph. And on March 4th of 2020, Joseph agreed to plead guilty if it meant that the death penalty was off the table. This was initially rejected, but then eventually accepted. And then on June 29th of 2020, he pled guilty to all the 26 counts, the 13 for murder, 13 for kidnapping. And at 74 years old, on August 21st of 2020, just a few days ago, this is what, the 24th at the time of me recording this? So on the 21st, about 3 days ago, he was convicted and sentenced to 11 consecutive life sentences with no possibility of parole. I kind of feel like if you're 74, you feel like you've done this much, like why would you not just take the death penalty? Because it's just like, at that point, what does it matter? It's like you're 74, you've already like killed so many people, like does it matter at that point? Really? Come on, Joseph. Come on. What are you doing? You know? Joseph, during his trial, had to listen to numerous victims' family members having to give their sides of the story. I think some victims spoke as well, but I know there was a lot of family victims for the murder victims, and Joseph had to listen to all of their pleas and all of their speeches of aggression and just like all of their feelings that they have been feeling throughout the majority of their life. And he had said, "I listened to all of your statements, each one of them, and I'm truly sorry to everyone I have hurt. Thank you, Your Honor." I don't like him at all. If you just look at his dumb face, he just reminds me of just like a puffer fish, and I hate those. I just don't like him. He just rubs me the wrong way because yes, these are criminals, and yes, they all rub me the wrong way because they're all criminals and they all do bad things, but like this guy just like especially just like gets underneath my skin because of the way he acts, and just like he doesn't accept any responsibility, really. He just like he apologized, I guess that's accepting responsibility, but like he blamed it on this inner voice named Jerry, who I do not believe exists, by the way. Am I besties with Joseph James D'Angelo Jr.? No. Oof. Who knows? Because first of all, Jerry just sounds like the first name he thought of. Like it wasn't even like, it could have been anything. It could have been something more exquisite, like Ross, but like it wasn't. It was Jerry. I have to sneeze and it won't come out. My nose is just itchy and I'm sorry. Anyway, this guy is the scum of the earth. I hate him. And he will rot in prison to the day he dies. And it was really important to me to get this video out relatively soon just because he was sentenced so kind of swiftly. Not swiftly. He was sentenced kind of recently. And yeah, My name is Ramirez. This has been Cooking Up Crime. I think we're on episode like 11 or 12 right now. I didn't eat that much. It was kind of cold and I didn't really care for it anymore. I'm kind of nauseated. But let me know if there's a case you want me to cover. Maybe I'll do Richard Ramirez next. I don't know yet. But let me know what you think and what food you want me to eat. If you like the food evenly, I'm gonna try a different camera. I don't know. We're gonna see if I'm like clever enough. I can try to put some videos in this from the trial, but I don't know if I'll be able to because of copyright laws and I'm not too tech savvy. But anyway, have a great day. I hope y'all have a wonderful week. I'm gonna try to have this up for later today if I can. I have an hour, so we'll see. It's also 50 minutes worth of footage, so I doubt it. It doesn't matter, I guess. Anyway, hope you have a wonderful day. Have a great week, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
I want you to forget your past lives and find me the new Christ. I want your heart to melt like ice in the midst of July.